We're starting the show with a unique look at how to handle one of our toughest challenges, the loss of a loved one, in this case, a mother who died from Alzheimer's.
She kept pushing me away. She would let go of my hand, she would push, and she would push a little bit harder each and every time. Finally, I just went, okay, a girl can take a hint, I'm leaving, and I'll see you tomorrow. That night when I went to bed, I did something I haven't done since I became a mom. I turned my phone off and I went to bed. And then I did something the next morning I never do. I slept late. And when I woke up, I panicked. Oh my God, I turned the phone on. I had missed 37 calls.
The long goodbye forced radio personality and writer Dayna Steele to revisit the tough times in her and her mom's relationship and mourn the loss of the good ones and become a full-time caretaker. You can see that emotional journey play out on stage in her play, The Woman in the Mirror. If you've experienced something similar, the play could be a form of therapy or just a lesson in life and human beings in general. Dayna joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Dayna Frances Nicholson, your real name, your given name. You are
my birth name.
Yeah.
Dayna, and you got to add an extra syllable, Dayna Frances.
Dayna Frances. All right. You're in California right now, but you're a native Houstonian. You are missing a little something that's happening in town right now, and that's the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. You are a rock and roller, but there's some country in this girl, too.
Oh, honey, I'm a native Houstonian. I have been going to I started out at the Houston Fat Stock Show and Rodeo. In fact, there's a great picture on my Instagram. I went to see, my dad and I got dressed up and I went to see the cast of Bonanza because I had a crush on Little Joe.
Oh, the cast of Bonanza. All right. I remember that too. You and I are kind of like in that same range right there. Before we get to the story that your play is based on, I want to talk about a little bit of that relationship between you and your mom and then your childhood in general. You were one of those theater kids, never shy.
Never shy, but not so much in theater. I got into theater just because that's where my friends were hanging out at Dulles High School, and they were all in theater. So, I would just go hang out with them. But no, I mean, even my mom, there's a line we use in the play now that she used to say, "You're just such a bossy little girl." But, mom had a personality. I mean, everybody loved mom. Mom never met a stranger, and I come by all of it very honestly.
Yeah, one thing I realized with my mom is that there were certain opportunities that she didn't have that she made available to me. It was a different time. Did you find that with your mom as well, is that there are certain things that you were able to carry through that maybe she wished she could have?
Yeah, I think my mom she was the life of the party. She loved being the center of attention, but she was not a selfish woman. She loved to help other people. But I think I know she really lived vicariously through the whole, as my Dayna Steele star rose on the radio in Houston, to the point that when Alzheimer's really took over towards the end, that's all she was waiting for was Dayna Steele. And we finally figured out it was the Dayna Steele who was like 25 years old on the radio. It wasn't me. It was very, very sad. But when I realized what it was, somebody on Facebook said, "Why don't you play her one of your old radio shows?" And I did. And it was the first time I'd seen her smile in months.
Yeah. Your first intentions when you headed off to A&M was not to be on the radio. What did you think you were going to do when you went to college?
Be a doctor, but first run wild at college because I was 16 when I went to A&M. And I had an absolute ball. I had a boyfriend in a band and blah, blah, blah. But I met a guy who was a DJ, and I thought if I auditioned for the new student radio station, that he would be impressed and ask me out. And he's a paramedic in Katy. He never asked me out, but the minute I put on the headphones, I knew I was where I needed to be, and I was there for the next 25 years.
Yeah, you went to work for KAMU. It was a male-dominated industry. I think I kind of went into radio just right behind you in that time. A male-dominated industry. What was your roadmap to make you think, I can do this too?
It's interesting you asked that because it is, we're just coming off, of Black History Month. And it was 3 really strong Black women who made me who I am today. And one of them was the program director of KAMU, was a Black woman, Sunny Nash. And she hired me. And then there was also a program director at KLOL, Jackie McCauley, a Black woman, the first Black woman to go to Rice University. And she dropped out of Rice to program KLOL. And she never hired me, but she mentored me. And I eventually, ended up at the station I wanted to be at.
Yeah, I called out your birth certificate name earlier, but how did you come up with the last name of Steele? So going by Dayna Steele.
When I came to work for Y94, KRLY in Houston, I told a little white lie just to get my foot in the door. I said I didn't want to be on the air. I just wanted to come back home to Houston and work in radio. And after about 3 weeks, I realized I hated working in the administration office. And I went into the program director and said, hey, I actually have a license and I have some experience. I had just turned 18. He literally patted me on my head, which I hate. People still do that. Literally that night, Deborah, the overnight guy didn't show up, and the program director and all the other jocks had been imbibing and were in no condition to go on the air. And they knew I lived across the street off Fountain View, and they said, okay, you're on the air. And the guy didn't show up again the next night. So I always tell people the lesson learned from that is, tell people what you want and need, because you never know what will happen.
Yeah.
And
always be open to an opportunity.
I was on the air from that point on.
You were also nicknamed the First Lady of Rock and Roll. You were the Radio Air Personality of the Year nomination for Billboard magazine and inducted into Texas Radio Hall of Fame in 2010. So you weren't just on the air, you were awesome on the air.
Oh, thank you. I'm just looking at this old footage. Oh my God, it's like the history of my hair.
Yeah, I can relate to that, Dayna. So you've lived this fabulous life, and you continue to live this fabulous life. And then all of a sudden, your mom, things start to change with her, as they will with most all of us. But you started to see some changes. What were those changes you started to see that concerned you?
The first things that, I think I didn't do anything. I just thought, oh, that's weird. It's like when I told her my best friend Christy was moving back, and she said, that's great. Now remind me again who Christy is. We'd been friends since high school. She was my maid of honor. Or when she mailed a $5,000 strand of pearls she'd been fixing for somebody back to the wrong person. Or when she told my kids, I can't remember what exit to take on the freeway. And I was like, oh, okay, kids aren't riding with Mimi anymore. Yeah. But it was after my dad died and her routine was off that I finally just started seeing some things that I thought, I got to take her to the doctor. And they did the MoCA cognitive test, the Montreal cognitive assessment test. It's a very simple test, but you want to make sure a professional does it. And when she drew all the numbers on an analog clock, 1 through 12 on the right side, I knew. It was like, okay, that's weird. Yeah. That's not good.
It was official then that you got a job that you did not necessarily sign up for. I went through that same kind of walk. You became the caregiver to your mother, so the roles are reversed. And then you got to walk in the role and realize how many caregivers we have in households across the nation, around the world really, and what they go through on a day-to-day basis.
Which is why I wrote the book and put the play together. It's a love letter to caregivers that there's no right or wrong. Let go of the guilt, because that's a big thing after you lose your loved one. With Mom, the first thing I did, Mom had Quail Valley, Sharpstown. She had 300 friends. I can't call this many people and say Mom has Alzheimer's. I'm gonna have a breakdown. So I thought, I'm just gonna post it on Facebook. I hope her friends don't get mad. And I woke up the next morning to hundreds of comments from friends, from strangers, my mom, my dad, my grandmother, my grandfather, my wife, my husband. And I thought, why doesn't anybody talk about this? And, you and your staff know, Deborah, I have no filter. So
we have our finger on the delay button right now. So I know.
Yeah, I
know. No, but it opened up honest conversations, and the thing that it made it do, the great thing about social media is that it can bring about that herd, that community that says, oh, we're not alone. We're going through the same thing, and please don't feel guilty. And I dealt with this, and I dealt with that. And so you started percolating on that whole idea of putting something together, the woman in the mirror, to help others who are going through the journey right now, already been through the journey, or you will one day.
And that's it. And it's, like I said, it's an on-stage manual. It is me and another actress who is just nailing my mom. It's just, I sometimes she makes me cry because it's like, oh my gosh. But it is to let people know it's okay. It's okay to laugh. It is okay to laugh. It is okay to cry. It's okay to say, I don't like this person. It's okay to say, I don't want to visit today. I remember my boys saying to me, please don't make us go see her again. We want to remember her the way she was. So it's just all of these things that we've put into the play to let people know it's okay. You either did a good job or you are doing a good job. There is no right or wrong. It's like when you have a kid and they send you home without a manual. You just go, okay, we got to. And when mom was diagnosed, I thought, well, I'm just going to research this and study this and Google this, and I'm going to do, like I do everything, and we will organize this and it'll be fine. And then, your mom goes, make the clouds go away. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Everybody's journey is different.
You're right. Everybody's journey is different. And, Alzheimer's is problematic in so many other ways because it's like almost your loved one left before they physically left. But still that caretaker role. I remember my mom would call me at like 9:05 on a weekday, and I'd look at my phone after I do the first segment, and she's like, Deborah, I need some Metamucil. I'm like, right now? So I call a friend to get it over there, right? But it's a different relationship with that parent. You're learning so many things about yourself and also about them. So with the woman in the mirror, when we're sitting through this, what do you hope people get from it? And it, by the way, not only for somebody who's dealing with Alzheimer's, not only for somebody who's dealing with taking care of a loved one, but it certainly is a value.
Any caregiver, that I see you. I see you. Somebody said, who'd you write this play for? And I said, me. It took me a long time to realize that's who I wrote it for, but it's like, I see you. I see what you're doing. I see the sacrifices you're making. I see the effort you're making. I see that you're doing everything you possibly know how, and you're still extremely confused and alone. It's the loneliest thing in the world to be a caregiver. It doesn't matter how many people you have around you. And that's what I want people to do, is come to this play and laugh and let down their guard and let me say, I see you and I love you. And you're doing a damn fine job.
Yeah. You also have curated other resources from what you've learned. As you said, you did all this research. So we'll let people know that you have resources for them to go to if they're dealing with Alzheimer's in particular. All right. So when are you going to be back in Houston?
Probably will be back in May, but you can actually listen to me right now. I'm on Houston Radio Platinum. I'm back on the radio. It's an online station, and you can download the app and take me with you anywhere you go. So that's a lot of fun. I'm on middays, 10 to 2, Monday through Friday. So I do, as soon as I get through with you, I will set up here the microphone, and I will do my show on Houston Radio Platinum. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And, what I want, Deborah, and everybody, I want to bring the woman in the mirror home to Houston, to stages, to the small theater at the Alley. It is a professional theatrical production that deserves to be seen, and it helps so many at the same time. So that's on my list.
Let it be done. I will work on that right after the show, Dayna Steele.